Welcome in, friends and future friends, to this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. I'm LaDarius. Hope all of you are well and safe out there. Lots to talk about. Usual, we talk about the NFL, college football news. Give my thoughts on the hiring of James Franklin for Virginia Tech. Um, but I want to lead off. I want to talk a little WNBA, and then we're going to we're going to go all things probably NFL and college football along the way. Um, with the negotiations, they're still going on with the WNBA. They extended the deadline, and the deadline is November 30th, and we're getting closer to that deadline. And like there was a development in a report that came out, but before I delve into it, I see that we got John in here by Tribal Deep. I acknowledge you. Thank you so much. And well, like I said, you guys are welcome to drop in the chat, leave your comments, questions as well. I much appreciate it because this show is just as much for you as it is for me, if not, a little bit more for you guys. So when we look at the negotiations, there was a report thanks to ESPN, and there's a proposal that the max salary be over $1.1 million in the latest talks. And Alexa Philippou, oh, I got that right, who does an outstanding job covering women's sports, covering the W, um, contributed to the article. And essentially, the latest CBA proposal included revenue sharing with the maximum share of more than 1.1 million available to more than one player per team each subsequent year. And essentially, like the new league minimum would be over the 220,000 that's there, with an average of more than 460,000 per source. And I think it's interesting because the CBA was set to expire on Halloween. Like I said, got the extension to November 30th to get a negotiation done. And the league opted out, the players opted out, because essentially higher revenue sharing, higher salaries, and like a softer cap. And my biggest thing is that when we talk about, and some people may think, oh well, why the players want 1.1 million? I think the growth of not just the WNBA, but the growth of women's sports plays a huge role there. As someone covers it for Beyond Women's Sports, like I noticed the trend, and a lot of people as well noticed the trend. I just feel you look at like there's superstars in the W. When you look at like Asia Wilson, like she's being compared to like Bill Russell, and she and I think I've said this on this show, and I'll say it again. She's going to go down as maybe, and more than likely, the greatest WNBA player of all time when she hangs up the sneakers. She's that good. And you look at Breonna Stewart, you look at Sabrina Ionescu, you look at like the future, you look at Caitlin Clark, you look at Paige Beckers, and there's so much talent for that draft class. You have Cameron Brink as well. We talk about Camila Cardoso, we talk about Angel Reese. There's stars in this league, and it never felt like getting paid. And people are like, well, women's sports and the contribution. My argument is this: the W is on the rise, and it doesn't surprise me. When you build your league around stars, every league does it. Like there's marketability to me was a concern for the W. It was also to an extent a concern for me in the NFL for a while, but that's kind of shifting a bit. But it's like you have marketable stars like Asia, like I mentioned, Asia Wilson, and her resume. It's fantastic. Apologies, live show. When it gets recorded, they'll hear the same thing. Pardon me, sorry. But like the marketability has always been there in the league. Like I've supported this league. I love this. Like WNBA, I became a Seattle Storm fan because of Sue Bird. I told that story here on the show. Apologies, friends, future friends with the sneezing. Um, But to kind of put a button on it, having 1.1 million as like that's not a terrible idea. I think now you're seeing this growth of women's sports. Ugh, I think I stopped that one. And I think what you're seeing here is, I think my fans are probably the culprit. Apologies, but I kind of feel and sense that there was a reason why they were players. Come on, why could this happen before the show? But my takeaway is this. Excuse me. I'm sorry if you're listening to your headphones and they got in your ear. The fact of the matter is that when you look at a major concern for like a lot of players in the W were going overseas. I promise you, I'll get through the segment. I apologize. But the core problem is that they were going overseas to make money. A lot of them, they supported their teams and their international clubs. But a lot of it was the money. And the fact of the matter is, now you're seeing other leagues like Unrivaled. Come on. But then I apologize. Now watch when I get done with the segment, it'll go away. Because I guess I have things to say, and I guess my body, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that excuse me. Dang it. Ugh. 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 And I was feeling fine before I did the show. I have no idea. But the fact of the matter is that it has to be a conversation because $1.1 million is not unreasonable. Excuse me. Given the league's growth, it should not be an issue. Because look at it this way, because like I was saying, we're having leagues like Unrivaled that was started by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. We have a league coming out called Project B, and then you have a league that I cover, Athletes Unlimited Basketball, to give alternatives in the off season to the W. I feel that I hope that those negotiations, like at the end of the day, a part of me feels like it's going to get done, and I want it to get done simply because if the league to continue to grow, because in the NBA you see it, like the league, it's a multi-billion-dollar league, and the player salary seems to go up, CBA and things of that nature. I think the WNBA, I can see that growth because listen, Asia Wilson deserves 1.1 million. Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, whether we want to believe it or not, down the road, like Caitlin Clark ended up being like the model for like probably maybe the biggest contract in the league's history. That's not a slight toward Asia Wilson or Brianna Stewart or nothing. No stars in the league now. But I feel that this CBA sets up long-term success, growth. I would also like us. I would like to see roster expansion. We're seeing more teams, the expansion coming to the league. I want to see bigger rosters because it upsets me. Like during every draft, it feels like we're cutting players. Like man, they never got a chance because of roster space, not because they're not talented. But I do hope that I hope that both sides come together because 1.1 million doesn't sound terrible in the grand scheme of things. So that's my 2.5 cents on the matter. I'm gonna grab a drink here. I'm thinking my sneezing fest is over. And once again, I apologize. I have no idea. Like I said, I was feeling great before doing it. And speaking of feeling great, some NFL teams are feeling great. Here we are entering week 12. But let's look back at the week that was in the National Football League. And I think if there was any takeaway, I think we saw some teams we like when we get toward November, December, we get toward crunch time, I feel the good teams rise up and we get the contenders pretender situation. And the best example of that is like solidifying is like the New England Patriots showed that, and I don't think it's hyperbole. It's like they're showing themselves like you are who your record says you are. They're a great football team. Like they're really showing themselves to be a contender, which they did on Thursday night. They're a top. They're atop the AFC East. And then speaking of the team in second place, Buffalo went out and beat Tampa Bay, a very good football team. Like these are the teams. Like that AFC East is very competitive. Like it's if anything, when you look at it, like I tell people, circle if there's a date you want to circle on your calendar, it's going to be it's going to be week 15. And that game has to be it's Sunday. Like that might be a Sunday night football game. That has to be a primetime game to flex. Because that game is going to essentially determine the winner of that division. If depending what happens because like it's 2 games away. So we'll see what happens. It's a good chance that the division will be on the line in that regard. And then you keep looking around the league and you look at what happened in week 11. I'm sitting here pausing because I look at San Francisco, that NFC West. It's like, don't let the Cardinals record fool you. It's like shout out to Jacoby Brissett breaking the completions record. But listen, Seattle and the Rams was everything and more, and we saw this Rams team do something that none of the teams have done this season. It felt like they were in control. It felt like they found a way to kind of, I don't want to say stop Seattle's offense because, mind you, Sam Darnold did have 279 passing yards, mind you. But when you kind of peel back in the stats, Seattle had 4 turnovers. Sam Darnold, he was accountable for all 4 interceptions. Did not throw a touchdown pass. And it's like you want to know you want to know this season how many times he's had a football game where he didn't have not a touchdown pass. The last time that happened, you have to go. And ironically enough, yeah, you look. It's like, well, when's the last time that happened? This season. It's only happened twice. You have to go back when they played San Francisco, where he had a game with 0 passing touchdowns. Every other game, he's had at least 1. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games with at least 2, and then 2 games with 4 touchdown passes. They shut down Sam Darnold in that game. You could like the stats, the number, like the score looked close, but the fact of the matter is that the turnovers, this Rams defense under Chris Shula, who's going to probably get some head coaching consideration, has done a great job consistently all season long. The NFC West has proven to be part of the toughest division in football because you can't forget about the San Francisco 49ers. This division, I can't tell you who's going to win this division. I couldn't tell you. Because, once again, you look at this division, the Rams are on top, and Seattle and San Francisco, 7 wins apiece. Like, it's very competitive. You look at other divisions, like, you look around, and you're like, this is the only division in football where it's like 3 teams are 7+ wins. It's the only division in football that can say that. And like I said, you look no further than the coaching. Sean McVay, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan. And I'll get on a coaching tangent a little bit later. Not a huge one, but I'll get on that. Because coaching matters. Building culture, it matters. Like I've always said this, and I'll preach it from the rooftop. coaching in the NFL is much more, and I'm not trying to disrespect like the NBA. I'm not trying to disrespect Greg Popovich or Phil Jackson, any of the great coaches in the NBA now. Nor am I disrespecting any of the managers of the Major League Baseball. But in the NFL, it's the shortest amount of games. Their decisions impact, and that impact daily, a win-loss could mean a winning season, losing season, playoff, non-playoff, no one seed, whatever. So many elements. And like it's no coincidence that those three teams, it's the only division in football with 7+ wins tonight. As we're speaking tonight, that has 7+ wins. And you look at Denver, who we talked about, like I talked about with my buddy Tanya Ray Fox, who was great on the show last week. And I led in and I talked about I don't think the Denver Broncos are frauds. I find them to be very interesting. Because if the offense can match what this defense has done, like it makes you question like what if we told you entering week 12? What if we told you like in like ESPN? What if I told you here are the teams that have more wins than the Kansas City Chiefs right now? That if you would have said this beginning of the year, you'd be like, oh wait, no way. Look at the AFC. New England has 9 wins. Buffalo 7, Indy 8 wins, Jacksonville 6 wins, Pittsburgh has the only team in the division with 6 wins. It's like the AFC has gotten, it feels tougher. But the penultimate question is the Kansas City Chiefs are in 3rd place. Mind you, they're not officially at the bottom because the Raiders, respectfully, like they're 3 games above them in the division. And for the Chargers, that offensive line, and it needs to be discussed that, like, listen, Justin Herbert is getting hit a lot. And this is not the first time, like, it's been a conversation. You look at the offensive line, like, it's shaken up with injuries. And you look at Justin Herbert, and you're kind of like, oh, man, he's been sacked 35 times this season. 35. And no disrespect, but a conversation. It's like this man is out here getting sacked like nobody's business. And if you want to peel back the numbers a bit, because I think it's an important conversation to have, is when you look at the numbers and you kind of peel it back. Like times blitz. Justin Herbert leads the league. He's been blitzed 117 times. He's been hurried just 28. But here's the thing: he's been hit 58 times. He's been pressured 121, and he leads the league in that. In terms of like pocket time, he gets time, but listen, he's getting blitzed 117 times. Leads the league. He's the most blitz quarterback, and he's the quarterback that's been hit the most with 58. 121 pressures. The next person on the list, Cam Ward, has 95. And to delve in deeper, he's been pressured 27.6% of the time when he drops back. That's what concerns me about this Los Angeles Chargers team. It's the health of Justin Herbert. And this offensive line is missing a lot of pieces. Like when you miss a guy like Joe Alt, that makes a difference. Like that's a game changer. And that's what concerns me. And that's what makes me feel that I'm not ruling out Kansas City as a wild card team. Because Kansas City's problem, the games that they won last year and in years past, they're losing today. Like right now, Kansas City will probably be sitting around maybe 8-2, 7 you know, maybe 7-2, 7-3, 7-3, excuse me, because they played 10 games. Maybe sitting around 8-2, 7-3. A 500 football team. I'm not panicking, but when you look at the AFC, you look at the top of the division, like New England, in the AFC East, Steelers just by one game over the Ravens. Don't be shocked, friends and future friends. Baltimore wins that division because Lamar Jackson is a game changer. Like, why are they playing bad? It's the defense. But look, when he wasn't on the field, it's like you could tell his absence was missed. You want to talk about like why he's the MVP? He's valuable to that team. It sounds like Captain Obvious, but it showed. Don't be surprised if Baltimore just takes that division. Don't be shocked. I think it's going to be Pittsburgh, Baltimore all the way in that division. You go to the South, the Colts feels like they have a lock. I don't know what I'm getting from Jacksonville on a consistent basis. I really don't. Houston's playing tonight against Buffalo. That game might be closer than what the experts think, in my opinion. Then you go back to the AFC West. Denver 9-2. Chargers 7-4. I don't know. Kansas City will be competing for the wild card. I think I said at the beginning of the season. Like, it's not that I think I love Andy Reid, Hall of Famer, Mahomes, Hall of Famer, Travis Kelce, Hall of Famer. But the league catches up with you in one form or another. And I think I said this on last week's show. Once Andy Reid retires, it's going to be even much of a free fall because they don't build coaches like Andy Reid. They just get off a tree and hire. The job will be attractive because of Patrick Mahomes, but at some point, Travis Kelce may be retiring within the next 2 seasons. How is this team going to look? That's the question. How's the team going to look in 5 years? They've had a great run, but this looks like a potential wild card team, and they'll be traveling if they do make the postseason. And then you look at the wild cards, then you look at the situation in the NFC, and you kind of look at, like, listen, how the Eagles. It's like how the Eagles are one of those teams. I say, how do they get better? Like, they got Jalen Phillips and made an immediate impact. And they held a Lions team to just 9 points. 9. That's how good they are. Once again, I still believe in Detroit. But, like, Dan Campbell took over the play calling, so we're going to see what happens the rest of the way. But you look at the NFC, it feels like it's the Eagles' division. It's like they're 8-2. Dallas is 4-5-1. When you have like a 3.5, 4-game lead, like in the NFL, and we're in week 12, I don't know. Like, I'm just saying the Eagles could have this division wrapped up before Christmas. And it wouldn't shock me if they did. It's no different to Dallas. Dallas is very sneaky because they went out and addressed defense in the trade. They got Logan Wilson, and they made moves to kind of, and when they got Kenny Clark as well in that trade, that Micah Parsons trade. So I don't count them out. It's just like they'll compete in the wild card situation. You look in the North, I'm not worried about Detroit. Detroit is still just a game behind because the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson, no one talked like how Tanya talked about the coach of the year situation. Like, there's no real clear definition of it, which, because if that's the case, then Bill Belichick will have like a case full of coach of the year awards. But and other great coaches would as well. But Ben Johnson, for the sake of this conversation, belongs in that conversation with Shane Steichen for the Colts, belongs in that conversation with Mike Vrabel for the Patriots. He belongs in that conversation. Coming in and getting Caleb Williams, like, people were ready to write him off. And I'm going to get into my rant about coaching because I got into one earlier on another show that my buddy C Dub and Ron was on. And we talked about like how I feel about how you should do with your quarterback. I'm going to get to that for sure. And you look, like I mentioned, the NFC West, the NFC South, like Tampa Bay and Carolina. Like if I told you that when you look at their schedule, when we're looking at schedules, just with the Bucks, it's not the slam dunk you think it is from a schedule perspective. And I'm not just saying that because listen, if my team, I don't care if we reel off 7 straight wins, I'm still not going to be impressed. But you look at their schedule, they have the Rams this coming up week in week 12. They got Arizona. They're going to host Arizona. They're going to host the Saints, and they host the Falcons. They have a little homestand. Week 16, they're going at Carolina. Friends and future friends, that's going to be probably for the division. And then they face Carolina to end the season in week 18. If someone would have told you that beginning of the season, like this division is going to come down to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers, you'd have been laughed out of the building. But that's why the NFL is the NFL. It's why fans love it. It's the spectacle of it all. It's the you don't know what's going to happen. It's the I won't say shock factor, but it makes it interesting. So I promised to talk about quarterbacks, and I will, and I am right now. So the news with Michael Penix going down, season-ending injury, and we've seen quarterbacks get hurt. We've seen injuries in general. We always say it every year, like well, we're seeing players and quarterbacks getting injured. My whole thing has always been this: is that when you're a franchise, I don't care if you're an offensive-minded coach or a defense. I don't care what the background is. You have to surround your quarterback respectfully to the defense, respect to any other player on the offense. You have to get the quarterback position right. And you see with Chicago bringing in Ben Johnson. You see Sean McVay with Matthew Stafford. You're seeing Mike McDonald and Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator, the work being done with Sam Darnold. You're seeing what Kyle Shanahan has done with both Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. Shane Steichen with the Colts with Daniel Jones. Josh McDaniels, Mike Vrabel, the job they're doing with Drake May. Like with the Bo Nix and Sean Payton, I don't know if I'm there yet. I think they're 9-2. They're 9-2. Like I said, I know they're 9. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at long-term success in the National Football League, you have to get the quarterback position right and get the right coaching, because I argue that we write off quarterbacks being bad and we dare not talk about the coaching. Like maybe that's not the coach for them. Like we definitely see, like I said, with Daniel Jones stands out, Sam Darnold stands out. Like, they're great. Yeah, it's amazing when you put them around great coaching, what great things can happen. Excuse me. That's why Liam Cohen was hired, because as Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick, what have we seen from Trevor Lawrence? That's a work in progress. Like the job, like what Jim Harbaugh's doing with Justin Herbert. My number one thing with Justin Herbert is that he needs an offensive line. I read you the numbers. He leads the league in getting hit. He's leading the league in getting blitzed. Teams are blitzing because that offensive line is not great, especially his blind side. Joe Alt's not there. And it's amazing when, like, and not amazing in a positive way, but it's amazing when it's like, man, Justin Herbert upright, he can sling the football like nobody's business. But the problem is he's been hit a lot, and that's long term. So when we talk about addressing offensive line, it's because the quarterback is your top asset. And when I look at the Atlanta, I'll talk like I know on last week's show, I got, I love my buddy Tom. I really do. But yeah, But she, listen, I don't like talking about the Falcons, but as a fan, I will say this. As a fan and someone who loves the game, I'm going to say this. I feel that Raheem Morris, I feel that Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins has failed Michael Penix. Like, remember when he was at the podium, he basically said he has to go outside the building. Like I said, when you got to go outside of where you're supposed to be safe and to go somewhere else, that's not good. I don't care if it's a relationship. If someone's leaving your house at 8:30 and listen, it's like, yeah, there's food in the house, y'all can hang out, but no, they want to go somewhere else because maybe they feel like there's something missing there. I'm not saying everyone leaves the house in a relationship is cheating, but when are you leaving? In the afternoon? You're not gonna think about it. 8:30, 9 o'clock at night? Where are you going? I'm here. That's how the Falcons should feel. That he had, like, why is Michael Penix leaving the building? Because Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, and Kirk Cousins. These are the three people that are supposed to entrusted to help develop. I don't want to hear that. Oh, I'm tired of. I know when a quarterback is a bust, and when there's three types of quarterbacks, especially when you're young. There's quarterbacks that you can tell, like, maybe that make it. There's ones like, given you put the right system around them, they're great. And there's ones that are going to be great regardless of what system. Michael Penix is the guy that he has not been surrounded by the right people. We got to stop writing up quarterbacks because when they're bad, they're bad. Like Jamarcus Russell was just bad. Respectfully, he was bad. Ryan Leaf admits he was bad. Ryan Leaf, great second career. I'm not knocking Ryan. I think Ryan's a good dude. Great story to check it out, to turn around his life. But that Chargers franchise suffered. The Raiders franchise suffered because they didn't have a franchise quarterback. Like, you have to get that position right. It's why they're the highest paid player on the team more often than not. It's why when we talk about in the media, we talk about quarterbacks. Like, we're talking about Drake May. We're talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about Lamar Jackson. We're talking about Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, J.J. McCarthy. I can go on. I'll finish it up. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, and we can talk about Brock Purdy or Mac Jones. We talk about quarterbacks for a reason. It's not by some random spin of a wheel. It's because they're that important. It's because their success hinges on the success of the team. In a team sport, they're the most important player on the team. Are there outliers? Absolutely. But if you don't get it right, if you fail the quarterback, and this is where I say we're organizations, hire people who can help develop your quarterback. If you're a defensive-minded guy or offensive, have the right system around you. I don't care, like at the job you work at, if you have a great support system, you're going to be happy. You're going to feel like you can develop and grow at your job. If it's terrible and you dread waking up and rolling out of bed, you're not going to feel jazzed about going into work. Like, Michael Penix probably didn't feel great about going to work because there's people in the building that he didn't trust and people there who's not there for his development. So before we talk about writing off quarterbacks, look at the coaching. That's all I ask. Is that if you want to still call a quarterback a bust after the fact, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to knock you for it. But look what's around them. Look what's the coaching structure. Like, that's why I say it doesn't matter for deep, like Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels was there. Like Shane Steichen's offense, mind. The point is that there's a system around those guys. Mike McDonald in Seattle, like with Sam Darnold. There's a reason. There's a reason why the quarterbacks are successful. I don't care if it's Tom Brady. I don't care if it's Peyton Manning. I don't care if you could go for you look at your all-time greats. Whether it's John Elway, when you look at Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, like, they had a great system. Like, their talent, great, but someone had to mold and meld their development, and there was the coaching, and it's not even close. So before we start writing off quarterbacks, let's give them a chance to succeed and thrive. And that leads me to Shador Sanders, who's going to start week 12 against the Raiders. Because people are like, oh, he's a bust. He came into a game and they're like, oh man, he's terrible. Oh, like I'm like, stop. Like, you're giving me a sample size. You know what you're giving me? Here's what you're essentially giving me. When you look at Shador, he went 4-16, 47 yards, and an interception. Sure. He threw the ball 16 times. He gets a full reps, whatever. Because at some point, it reminds me that I was on beginning of the year, beginning of the season, like Jim Coventry and the amazing people there at RotoWire. There's a lot of amazing fantasy football people and football people. Jim Coventry is definitely there in my list personally. No one want to talk about Cleveland. I said, I'll talk about Cleveland. And the more I looked into them, and I made the prediction that Shador Sanders is going to probably start more games on that roster, because whatever narrative you feel about like his dad, Dion, or whatever, that's fine. But what I saw at Colorado, his own father admitted we didn't protect him. No offensive line. But he was able to thrive to a certain extent. And I'm not upset at like the Giants getting Jackson Dart, because that works. It's working. It's succeeding. Did Tyler Shug? I don't know how that's going to work out. But you look at quarterbacks drafted ahead of him, like Dylan Gabriel, the guy, his teammate, was drafted ahead of him. And there's a reason why he's like, you know what, we're going to go with Shador. There's a reason for that. Is it potentially maybe when you look at Cleveland? Oh, is it because they're 2-8? That plays a reason. Is it that Kevin Stefanski needs to probably do something because he could be out the door? Sure. Tommy Reese, the offensive coordinator? Sure. I'm not going to argue with you on that. And at the end of the day, and then John jumps in, it's like, our football team is the London Cillian Anderson family guy. Yeah, that's true. But they were successful too. Peter Griffith helped that team. Doesn't get credit for as a great athlete. But that's my point. Is that it doesn't matter what the background of the coach is. Offense, defense. Like we look at John Harbaugh, his special teams, but he's coaching other areas. But he was a special teams coordinator when he took that job. Is that, do you have the right people around to help develop your quarterback to be great? And if that's not the case, and if another staff can't get it right, then it's like, well, maybe it's the quarterback. So I'm not running off Michael Penix till I see him with another coaching staff that knows how to develop talent, develop the position, and once the core position is successful, they can figure out everything else. They can figure it out. But you have to get the quarterback position right. I don't care who you are. You have to get it right. Speaking of things getting it right, Virginia Tech feels like they got their guy, the right guy, in James Franklin. And I absolutely, unequivocally, I love the hire. Here's why. James Franklin, when he was in the SEC for Vanderbilt, he turned around a Vanderbilt program that was bad. Vanderbilt was the basketball school. Vanderbilt was I argue Vanderbilt's a baseball school. Like football wasn't even on the map. Like this year, shout out to Clark Lee. But in the 3 seasons that he was at Vanderbilt, they made it to bowl games every single year. 6-7, 9-4, 9-4. Parlayed that to get the Penn State job. But when you look at Vanderbilt, he led them, and they were ranked in 2 of the 3 seasons he was there in the top 25. Before that, look it up. Vanderbilt was not great. Then he gets the Penn State job. He's there for 12 seasons. And think about the COVID. If you want to count the COVID year, fine. But that was his only really losing season. That was his only losing season because they went 4-5. So, but the whole thing at Penn State, my takeaway from that was, I think entering the season before, they were 13-3. They were in the college football playoff just last year. And he gets fired 3-3. So that let me know is that the expectation was for them not only to get back into the college football playoff, but to get to the national championship game and win it. Whether you feel the expectations are fair, because I feel some schools have expectations that are reasonable, unreasonable, and like you go, okay. Those are the three categories. You're like, oh, that's unreasonable. Like, okay, that makes sense. And then you're like, okay, it fits. Like Penn State, I feel that I get where the stance comes from. He turned around a program. Like Penn State was bad shape, the whole Joe Paterno thing. He made it work. He got it right. 500 in the bowl games, 6-6. He was the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Like I said, while he was there, Penn State had multiple double-digit wins. In fact, he had back-to-back 11-win seasons, 2017, 2018, won 11 games in 2019, and won 10-plus games from 2022 to last season, at least. So, like, LaDarius, like, what's like, why? I was like, here's why I like with Virginia Tech. Go look at Virginia Tech's program. And this program, and this is what I say: when a legendary coach retires, it's hard to replace it. It's like it takes a minute. Like Indiana basketball, nobody feel about Bobby Knight. It took him a minute. Like they're not quite there. And like Nebraska, when Tom Osborne, like it takes a minute to replace a legendary coach. It's not justifying being bad, but think about this: when Frank Beamer's final season was in 2015. 2015, and Virginia Tech's going to be on their third coach. And Frank Beamer started there all the way back in 1987. You can do the math. When he stepped away in 2015, here's what it looked like under the post Frank Beamer era. And listen, it wasn't terrible. Like, let's be super clear. Like, it wasn't trash. But since then, they only had one double-digit win season. One 10-plus win season. And winning record, they're not having one this year. They've had, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losing seasons since then, since 2016, in a decade. They made bowl games. They made 4, 5, 7 bowl games. But the fact of the matter is that the expectations were high, and especially back-to-back losing seasons. Brent Pry, with help, like he worked under James Franklin, and you saw James Franklin's press conference. He spoke highly of Brent Pry, and he said like Brent Pry poured his heart into this school, which he did, which he very well did. What Virginia Tech is getting as a head coach, you're getting a guy who's going to turn around the culture. He's going to turn around this football team. Don't be shocked if Virginia Tech competes in the next two seasons. I'm not even going to use 3. 3 is maybe, like I always say, you give a program 3 times, bring in your players, recruiting. But now with NIL, it feels different. But give James Franklin a chance to turn around the culture there, and they'll be fine. But when you look at all these other hires and things that are, and then John's like, can we get the Don from NX? No, John, we're not messing around with Tony D'Angelo. No, he can stay right where he is. But you look at the other openings. Like he could have took any other job. No, Virginia Tech fits James Franklin because the expectations are reasonable. Because I'm not comparing Vanderbilt to Virginia Tech. All I'm conjecturing is that think about what Virginia Tech was, post Frank Beamer and the multiple losing seasons in the decade since he retired. Like James Franklin turned around. Like, do you want to know how bad Vanderbilt was? Like Vanderbilt, I keep saying Vanderbilt's terrible, but Vanderbilt couldn't have been that bad before James Franklin got there. Yeah, they were. Yes, they were. I double, triple, quadruple down on it. They were that bad. This is Vanderbilt's 122nd year of playing football. And since James Franklin, you thought what I read about Virginia Tech was bad. No. In the words of the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. In the post, and this includes Clark Lee, USA, turned around the program. The 8-2 record is the best record they've had since James Franklin. You know what James Franklin's record left when he left for Penn State in 2013? He was 9-4. That's 2013. That's 12 years ago. But let me tell you, from 2014 to now, when you look at these 12 seasons, you know the most wins they had in a season before the season they had now? You want to count this year? We can. You know how many winning seasons they had? They've had 2. And it's by Clark Lee. Back to back. Last year they went 7-6 with a bowl win, and they're 8-2 now. Like post James Franklin, like Derek Mason somehow got 6 seasons. Like how he got 6 seasons in a movie, like Community. I like Community. It's a great show. And nothing. In fact, they went winless. Like I said, that COVID year, they went 0-9. The most wins Derek Mason had in a season was when he went 6-7. Twice. That's why I say it's what Clark Lee's doing now. It's James Franklin-esque. How bad was it before James Franklin got there? Before this 9-4, like, you want to know the most wins that program had before James Franklin got there? And I'm talking 122 years of football. James Franklin in his time, those 3 seasons, back-to-back 9-win seasons. You know the last time Vanderbilt had back-to-back 9 before James Franklin? Before? I'll give you a clue. The most they've had is 8. And the last time they did even won 8 games in the season before James Franklin got there, you want to know how far back you got to go? 1982. Now, I was born in 1988. Full transparency. And all of a sudden, he shows up in 3 seasons and they get back-to-back wins, back-to-back 9-4 seasons at a school. Maybe I say it's a baseball school, respectfully. Like now, hey, I'll call them a football school. I'll call them that. Clark Lee is like, listen, I'll say it. It's looking like a football school. But the fact of the matter is, that's why I believe in Joe Hendry, I believe in Thea Hale, and I believe in James Franklin. He's going to turn around that program. They're going to be fine. You're going to see the results because his track record shows me from Vanderbilt, he's going to turn around. Because, like I said, I'm not comparing Vanderbilt to Virginia Tech, but they're similar. Like, look at the success post, before he got there. Look at the success of the program. And then the time that after he left, how he left it better. He left it a better place. It's just like the people that put in, like Derek Mason, good guy, good coach. Clark Lee was the guy that had to turn it around. And that's applicable to life. Before we get out of here, understand is that certain situations in life, just like in any organization, have the right support system to be successful. Because you have people in your team, your proverbial team, the group, that wants to see you fail, so they can be successful, and watch you fail. Have that system around you of support. That's my takeaway. It's not like a Jerry Springer final thoughts, but that's Brown's big picture, I guess. Rooting for James Franklin there in Plattsburgh. And friends and future friends, that's this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. Before you go, like and subscribe to this episode of the podcast, and subscribe to the podcast. Like, give it 5 stars. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Catch me on Twitter and TikTok at LaDarius_Brown. Instagram, LaDarius_Brown. Writer for Beyond Women's Sports. There will probably be an article. I have an article out this weekend. Sports. Well, I have an idea which I'm going to write about, because like women's sports is fantastic. I love writing about women's sports. I absolutely love it. And so check that. I'm going to look up for that. Check out the preview of the Bills Texans game. It's already out all on my social media platforms. Give it a watch before the game tonight. And for the future friends, until I see and hear you again next time, I'm LaDarius. Be real, be real. Geez, I messed up last week, so the streak hasn't started getting it right. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.